Hey everyone, welcome back to Eco Chit Chat. Today we're here with a very special guest, Samantha Duncan from Island Converters. She's going to talk to us a little bit about her thesis on the Diego Martin River. Now this river is in Trinidad and it's located on the west of Trinidad and Tobago. She'll give us a little more details about this, I just here to provide moral support. So take it away, Sam.
Yes, Khadija, you are right. It is located on the west of Trinidad. It is actually located west of the capital, Port of Spain, and east of Chaguaramas, which is a bordering town. The thesis was on water pollution of the Diego Martin River. I tested 9 parameters, including pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, nitrates, phosphates, salinity, specific conductance, and some others. We'll get to that. 10 sites were tested from inland Diego Martin. The first site was in Blue Range on Avon Lane, and the last site was at the river mouth by La Riviera Apartments in West Moorings. Overall, the pollutants of the river were TSS, which is total suspended solids, the salinity, and the specific conductance. My personal opinion is that these 3 showed up as the main pollutants because actually the YSI multi-parameter meter that was used to test most of the parameters, the same probe in the meter measures those 3 parameters. So that one probe measures the 3. So if one of them is significantly higher, it will affect all 3 parameters. Yes. I actually expected I should say, for the dissolved oxygen content to be extremely low, because anyone from the area or who has been to Diego Martin before, it is blatant, especially or closer to the river mouth.
Yeah.
The solid pollution, the solid waste pollution, so styrofoam containers, plastic bottles, it's awful. Yes, it's awful. Actually, during the testing, there was a shopping cart. Yeah, there was a shopping cart. And on another site further upstream, there was a toilet. And
how that reach there?
No, it's disgusting actually. But even I thought before I did all the testing that that's all it was. Yeah. That it was just solid waste pollution and people have a don't care attitude towards the Diego Martin River. But the study showed that actually the main issue is population growth. Okay. And under population growth, there are all these other factors, including poor waste management and littering, access to education, and improper land use. So
she's trying to say that we humans nasty in a nice way.
Basically. Actually, a socio-environmental questionnaire was also distributed. So it honestly was not that many people. It was quite limited, so it was just a very tiny part of the thesis, but it did show a lot, because although it showed that it was either 90 or 95% of people, I will have to
90 to 95,
yes, of people had tertiary level education. Only about 60% of them were willing to financially contribute to the maintenance of the Diego Martin River on a monthly basis. And out of that 60% that are willing to contribute financially, there was an option for, it was like $0, $20, $30, $40, $50 or more a month. And the same amount of people, which I found this surprising, the same amount of people who chose to contribute $20 a month to the maintenance, the same number of people chose $0.
Okay.
Keeping in mind that even though the tertiary level education is present, the actual willingness, so there's no connection to the society and environment really.
Yeah.
Back to the parameters. The dissolved oxygen content, I know out of just personal error, the meter was dropped sometimes at different sites in eddy currents. For those of you who don't know what eddy currents are, you can just Google that. Google that. So I know the dissolved oxygen content did spike at certain points, But the trend throughout the entire river showed that between sites 6 and 10, which was coming closer to the river mouth, the dissolved oxygen content was consistently lower than all the other sites. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, yeah, 5 sites actually, just like any other river in the world, that's where sedimentation is concentrated. So the rest of the river, although it may not be full all the time of water, all the sediment gathers towards the mouth of the river. So that also I know had some contribution to it. Another thing with the dissolved oxygen, I did a weekly comparison between the first week and second week because only 14 days of testing was done. And and it was noticed that between Fridays and Saturdays, the dissolved oxygen content was significantly less. Like significantly less. And that was actually expected prior to the analysis of the data, because on a Saturday morning, the amount of garbage found in the river and the color of the water on a Saturday morning was gross. Site 7 in particular has a rancid smell.
Friday to Saturday. That's a lime time.
Yes, lime time. And payday for daily paid workers. Most of the parameters fell within guidelines. The main guideline that I used was the AMA guideline. For the parameters that did not have a guideline set in the Water Pollution Act, I used the US EPA, Australian EPA, or World Health Organization guidelines as comparison to see if the parameters I measured went over or they were within.
Yeah.
So the only 3, as I already said, that were above were the TSS, salinity, and specific conductance. The nitrates and phosphates, actually this stood out to me as well. I expected it to be, if not highly polluted, somewhat polluted, and these 2 parameters were extremely low.
At all 10 sites?
Yes, at all 10 sites. The graphs showed significantly almost stagnant readings at all 10 sites, and I expected much higher readings, or at least surpass the guideline or something. But actually the agricultural sector in Lake Martin seems to be within I don't know, jurisdiction. What was the word?
Or it could be to the fact that you mentioned with the increasing population and stuff, that the society in Lake Martin changed from more agricultural to more like middle income and stuff. So you don't have much people doing agricultural practices as before. So that could probably be why.
Actually, that is a good suggestion. But I feel like that's a whole study on its own to conduct. But you are right with the population growth. There was a population census done in 1980 that showed only 7,094 people living in Lake Martin. Keep in mind, the Lake Martin River has not changed from inception structurally, so it has not been widened or deepened or anything. It's the same old river. In 2011, another census was done, and it was 102,957 people. So based on that increase rate, and according to my calculations, as of 2018, this year, the population is about 124,603 people with the same size river.
Yeah.
So yes, the main effect is flooding, which the questionnaire also revealed. Although people didn't find a direct discoloration in water or anything, the main thing that they found different about the Lake Martin River is that how it affected their life. And every year for rainy season, everyone in Lake Martin, everyone has to prep for flooding.
Yeah.
My house has been flooded. I've been affected by it, and it's not a good feeling. You have to spend days upon days clearing, shoveling mud out of your bedroom. Who wants to do that? That's disgusting. Unfortunately, oil and grease and fecal matter were not tested for. I did want to test specifically for fecal matter to know how the wastewater from homes and businesses in Diego Martin were affecting the river, because how much percent of the water is used?
60% of the water in Trinidad comes from our rivers. So it's important to understand, what is the state of the river and stuff, so that we could examine our supply. Yeah.
Right. And the only thing I had to work with was this dissolved oxygen content. So I wanted to do a sand curve with the biological oxygen demand and the dissolved oxygen, but as I said, I only had the dissolved oxygen, so I just had to kind of assume almost that the BOD was high at the low points of the U.
Yeah.
And again, between sites 6 and 10. Actually, also between sites 2 and 3, and the common thing between sites 2 and 3 and 6 and 7 were that they're very densely populated. So between sites 2 and 3 is the bulk of residents. Actually, right at site 6 is Dunross Prep, and that is directly downstream from St. Anthony's College and behind Victoria Gardens. So again, it's another very densely populated area where a lot of wastewater is being released into the river.
Okay, for those of y'all out there who's not very, scientifically inclined, could you just tell us a little bit what does dissolved oxygen mean for the health or the state of the river?
Okay, sure. Actually, dissolved oxygen is possibly the most important parameter to know about
or test for.
test for in a water body, because it dictates if life can exist in the water, and it affects how
So basically, I think what she's trying to say is that it affects the biological diversity of the river, and this is important because if species and stuff can't live in the river, that means it's heavily polluted, and
and what she's trying to say is that in general it affects the entire community, because if one person drinks bad water or gets bad water from that river, as in polluted water from the river, and they get sick, depending on what they get sick with, it can be, what's the word I'm looking for? Contagious.
contagious.
And then that causes a health issue within the community. Yes, so it's not only solely for the residents to take responsibility of pollution of the Diego Martin River or lack thereof, but or this government on its own, but both together. The government has to work with the regional corporation, who has to work with the people of Diego Martin and by extension West Moorings, to make sure that the river remains clear of debris. That's another thing. The regional corporation actually, I think 2 or 3 times a year, they use excavators to clear the river of sediment to allow for more water to flow during the rainy season. Actually, I even saw them right after testing, I saw them clearing. But 2 or 3 times a year is not sufficient for 124,000 people.
Yeah.
No, that needs to increase tremendously. Or they need to put little booms and oh my god, it's 2018 people. Use technology, not just an excavator. Obviously there's going to be flooding still. I did mention earlier that under population growth, access to education was an issue, and although most of the people have tertiary level education, they actually access that education outside of Diego Martin or even outside of Trinidad. But within Diego Martin, throughout the years, the increase in number of schools it's not respective to the amount of people. So although the population of the area is increasing, the enrollment numbers in schools remain the same. The sizes of the schools remain the same, and that actually does have a great effect on society. So you need to look at that, government.
What's she trying to share?
Was that shit?
Yeah.
So, but Khadija, didn't you do a study as well?
Oh, yeah, I did. I did a study on the Santa Cruz River, which is where I live in Trinidad. And basically, what I found from my study was that there's a huge gap, a huge disconnect between society and the environment. Like, people don't understand that their water comes from the rivers or it comes from groundwater and whatnot. WASA does not make water. WASA is our water and sewage authority. They don't make water. So if our rivers are dirty and whatnot, then they have to spend money to clean that river for us, to provide us with clean, safe drinking and potable water, right? So it's our responsibility to keep the rivers clean, because it's not water for them, it's water for us. You know, and I think that that's the same thing that Sam found in Diego Martin when she was saying that how not much people were willing to pay to keep the river clean, or they were willing to pay like a minimum fee and whatnot. And again, the water in the river is for us. It's not to sell, it's not for, you know, it's for us to use, to bathe, to cook, to use our toilets and whatnot. So it's our responsibility, again, as well as the government, to ensure that this water is kept clean and safe, and, you know, that we take care of our rivers, because who doesn't like a good river life? Really? Who? Right?
Actually, as you say that, one of the questions in the questionnaire was if you wanted to see in the future any recreational activity around the Diego Martin River. And most people said yes.
Yeah.
They would like to see it.
Yeah.
And they also said they need proof that the
It's
river
clean.
is deemed to be clean.
Yeah.
But they would, once it's said to be clean for all to go in, or kayaking, or whatever the case is, people are willing to go.
Yeah.
It's not accessible.
Same in Santa Cruz. People a long time, or like even 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, used to be able to bathe in the river comfortably and whatnot, and they can no longer do that. Because Sam said she didn't test for fecal coliform and stuff like that, but I did, and when I tell you, the values were high, and I fell in that river. It was nasty, right? I had to come home and drown myself in Savlon and methylated spirit and holy water.
Holy water.
Everything to try and cleanse from the inside out, right? Because the water is so nasty, so we can't have children or people bathing in that in general, because you have diseases like diarrhea, malaria, etc., right? So yeah, it's important that we help keep our rivers clean and whatnot. And that's it for today's episode of Eco Chit Chat here with Sam. So make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe
And share.
Oh, and share. Yeah. And thanks for watching us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Wait, one more thing. I forgot. A random question in the questionnaire, and I purposely put it as a random question, was what do you do with your cooking oil? And majority of people who responded said that they pour it down the kitchen drain. 1 or 2 people said they throw it outside in the garden, or a couple people said they put it in the garbage bin and let the garbage truck take that. But majority of people, whether it's in the garden or in the sink, it's going to end up in the river. Because when rain falls, that's going to wash off as runoff, and then all drains lead to the
river.
Yeah.
And where the river leading to?
The
sea.
ocean. So yeah,
that's why we have this series, Eco Chit Chat, so we could be out here educating you guys on simple things that you need to know, like the EMA, like water pollution, like deforestation, like the oil spills. Don't get me started.
don't get us started on the oil spills.
Right? But Sam, that's it.
I think so.
You're sure this time?
I hope so.
Okay.